Some people move through life like they're wearing psychological armor. You can't guilt trip them, you can't pressure them, you can't bait them into emotional reactions. They see through deception with unnerving clarity, which makes them completely impossible to control. Psychology calls this emotional independence, the ability to stay grounded, even when someone tries to pull you into their chaos. In this video, we'll break down the traits that make certain people extremely hard to manipulate, fool, or emotionally influence. These aren't loud behaviors, they aren't dramatic. They're subtle, but they change everything. 1. They think for themselves completely. Emotionally strong people don't follow the crowd. They don't jump on trends. They don't make decisions based on what's popular or what everyone else is doing. Their decisions come from logic, not influence. Research shows that people who are impossible to manipulate have developed what psychologists call a strong internal reference point. They know who they are and what they believe, regardless of external pressure. Manipulators thrive on social proof. They use phrases like, "everyone's doing it," or "you're the only one who thinks that way," to make you doubt yourself. But these tactics fall flat when someone has already done the inner work. They've built their own belief system, tested it, and stand by it. They don't need the crowd's validation to feel confident in their choices. This independence makes them completely immune to peer pressure, social manipulation, and herd mentality. 2. They question everything relentlessly. Here's what manipulators absolutely hate: people who ask why. Because that single question exposes hidden motives immediately. Emotionally aware individuals don't accept stories at face value. They probe gently but persistently. That doesn't add up. Why would I be responsible for that? What's the actual evidence here? This isn't skepticism for the sake of being difficult. It's intellectual self-defense. Research shows that critical thinking is one of the strongest shields against manipulation. While most people accept the first explanation that sounds reasonable, impossible to manipulate people dig deeper. They notice inconsistencies. They spot logical gaps. They recognize when someone's words don't match their actions. And the moment they sense something off, they investigate. This habit of questioning makes manipulation attempts crumble before they even take root. 3. They never react emotionally on the spot. Most manipulation strategies rely on one thing: getting you to respond emotionally before you think logically. But emotionally strong people have trained themselves to pause. Even a 2-second pause creates a psychological barrier between stimulus and response. They use techniques like deep breathing, internal labeling of emotions, and grounding their awareness in the present moment. This is emotional regulation in action, the ability to steer your feelings instead of being controlled by them. Research shows that when you don't give someone the reaction they're fishing for, their strategy collapses, the drama fades, the power dynamic resets. Their calmness isn't silence, it's clarity, and clarity is impossible to manipulate. While everyone else is exploding, defending, or spiraling, they're observing, they're thinking, they're strategizing, and by the time they respond, it's calculated, not reactive. 4. They have unshakable boundaries. People who can't be manipulated set firm expectations from the start. Respect is non-negotiable. They know how to say no without guilt, fear, or second-guessing themselves. They don't confuse being kind with being obligated. Research shows that excessive obligation often leads to burnout and resentment, not true connection. When someone tries to guilt-trip them with phrases like, "if you really cared," or "you owe me," these tactics fall flat. They don't give manipulators extra details, emotional openings, or weaknesses to exploit. Their boundaries speak louder than their explanations. They're not afraid to say no without a paragraph of excuses or apologies. They make decisions based on their own needs and values, not someone else's expectations. And the second someone crosses a line, they call it out. If necessary, they walk away without looking back. 5. They don't need external validation whatsoever. This is the ultimate defense against manipulation. Compliments, attention, approval, none of it controls them. So flattery doesn't work. Love bombing doesn't work. Praise and withdrawal tactics don't work. Research shows that people who don't rely on external validation to feel good about themselves possess what psychologists call low social dependency. Manipulators target people who need to be liked. They use charm, compliments, and attention to hook you emotionally, then pull those things away to control your behavior. But if you don't need their approval to begin with, the entire strategy collapses. You're focused on yourself and living up to your own standards of behavior, not theirs. You don't change your behavior just to avoid discomfort or appease others. You act in alignment with your integrity. and your self-trust makes you immune to subtle manipulation tactics that work on almost everyone else. 6. They observe patterns, not promises. People can say anything, but their habits always tell the truth. Emotionally aware individuals judge trustworthiness through patterns, especially long-term patterns. They observe how someone behaves when they're stressed, embarrassed, corrected, or told no. They understand the psychological concept of intermittent reinforcement. When someone behaves badly, apologizes intensely, then repeats the same behavior. Research shows this creates emotional confusion and dependency in most people. But those who are impossible to manipulate don't fall for it. They compare the promise to the pattern and choose the pattern every time. If the apology is loud but the behavior stays the same, they treat it as information, not transformation. You cannot manipulate someone who makes decisions based on evidence instead of emotion. 7. They use silence as a diagnostic tool. Silence is one of the most misunderstood behaviors of emotionally strong people. It's not avoidance. It's not a power play. It's a way to see who someone really is. When they stop responding, they watch. Who respects the pause? Who becomes defensive? Who turns aggressive? Who reveals their true intentions? Silence removes emotional noise. It creates distance, and distance exposes patterns. Research shows it helps them analyze relationships without pressure, manipulation, or emotional fog. It lets them see loyalty, respect, motive, and emotional maturity with perfect clarity. And because silence doesn't feed someone's need for attention or control, manipulation loses oxygen. Their silence isn't about control, it's about understanding. Here's the truth. You cannot manipulate someone who knows themselves, questions everything, controls their emotions, maintains boundaries, and doesn't need your approval. These people aren't cold. They're conscious, calm, and aware. And anyone can learn these traits. True strength doesn't come from controlling others. It comes from not letting others control you. When you understand your emotions, your patterns, and your boundaries, your reactions are no longer weapons someone can use against you. These silent behaviors make you untouchable, not because you're defensive, but because you're awake. If you found this helpful and you enjoy psychology explained in a simple and meaningful way, feel free to subscribe for more videos like this.